I am currently broadcasting somewhere in Redmond, Washington, and with me is the 2018 Subaru WRX. 3, 2, punch. Welcome to our live streaming review of the 2018 Subaru WRX. You will note that this one isn't the famous World Rally Blue. In fact, it's the famous BDR. That's right, it's Baby Driver Red, or as Subaru likes to call it, Pure Red. Now, you probably didn't expect that we would start this live vehicle review on the road. And, well, I'm being not entirely truthful. I recorded this bit separately. But we aren't far away from being able to bring you live car reviews in vehicles as well as outside of the vehicle, all in one seamless show. We're very, very close. And with your support, we will get there even sooner. So please be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and download our apps for Roku and Apple TV. And with that, we're going to go ahead and pull into the parking lot. But first, I think there's a little gravel between here and there. Okay, let's go ahead and park this. Now we'll let the real live webcast begin, and we'll start with something that's very important to WRX owners, that hood scoop. I own a 2004 Subaru WRX, and I bought it from another guy, and that guy had actually put an STI scoop on the hood. I will admit, it looks ridiculous. Kind of ridiculously cool, but mostly just ridiculous. I do like how Subaru has really integrated on the 2015 Plus models of these cars. They've really given it much more of an aerodynamic integration into that hood. Also, the lines of the vehicle. I mean, we now have, since they've divorced the WRX from the Impreza line, we now have this wide body look that's accentuated by these lines down here with these little WRX inset pieces. I think the overall feel is really just, it's really butch. I mean, I hate to say, use that term, but it really is. It's like it's walking around like, hey, what's up? And I think that's kind of cool, you know, for what it is. That's the kind of car this car is. It's not a Forester. It's not a Crosstrek. This is the freaking WRX, man. So let's go ahead and continue to the back. Now, on the back here is not a big wing. Now, the WRX historically has had a huge freaking wing. Not as big as the STI, but it's been significant. This latest version of the car, they're going for a much more subtle, sophisticated, yet still kind of tough looking feel. And with this one, they've gone with just a small lip spoiler in the back. I think it looks pretty nice. Although, to be honest, I would have liked an option for a wing, because I think this car, if you put a CF wing on the back, that would look pretty amazing. You do, however, get small little under effects here, little air effects, air streaming thing going there, and then we also have the quad pipes, which again lends to the whole sporty, high dynamic feel of the vehicle. Now, if you do want the car to look a little bit more boy racer, and say you're missing the old Evo 9 look, you can get a little Vortex generator up here, which are a bunch of slats which help stream airflow to the back. I personally think that they look a little silly on this car, just because they were such a significant design aspect of the Evo 9. I think that it's kind of weird to put something that's so Evo onto a WRX, especially considering that they were, like, you know, competitors. And granted, there was the STI, not the WRX, but same family. Moving along here, there is utility in this car as well. Yeah, right, we had to clean the car. The trunk space is huge, and that's important if you actually want to drive this car every day, because that really is what the WRX is. It's a car that you can drive every single day, and that day doesn't matter if it's snowing, raining, hailing, thunderous meteorites from Mars, giant aliens. This car can pretty much handle any condition, and I think that's key. Do we have any questions about the exterior of the vehicle at this point? Who is? Don is asking what? Oh, the lower piece? Subaru says this insert is new. I couldn't find a 2017 in time for this episode to really confirm it. So I probably, yes. There are interior bits that are also updated over the previous model, but we're talking very subtle changes to materials. And since this is a limited, it's a fully loaded version anyway. So if you're comparing, say, last year's premium to this year's limited, you know, Anything else?
Don has another question.
Go, Don. Thanks for all the questions.
Are the air vents behind the front wheels functional or purely cosmetic?
I had actually asked that at the launch in 2015, and I don't remember the answer. There is no connection here. This is completely sealed. I am pretty sure those are strictly cosmetic. I see no indications that there's any airflow going in or out of that. And let's go ahead and go on to the next question. I think that answers that. Those ones I think are strictly cosmetic. But they look good. I mean, they have to finish. See, that's the thing. When you're putting in these like really wide haunches, you got to finish them somehow. And you know, the one thing like with the old, I think it was the old Mustang, it had this old honeycomb pattern. And it was so big back here, you could look, oh no, it was back here. It was their side vents in the previous generation. You could see these just ridiculous plastic honeycombs that did nothing. It's great that you actually had to ask whether or not these worked, because just by looking at them, you can't tell. I think that's a nice design aspect. Next question.
Yeah, so X-Hide is asking, are the wheels forged?
Are the wheels forged? You can get the STI wheel, the forged wheel, as an option. These ones are not. These are just cast. They appear cast. Yeah, and the STI wheel option is an expensive one, but they will look so sick on this, honestly, because they're like blacked out, just, oh, so nice. Now this vehicle, speaking of wheels and tires, this one has the 18-inch option, which is it's standard on the limited, but on lower models, it comes with a 17. Now, historically, I would have gone with a bigger sidewall on a WRX because really the whole concept of the WRX is a rally car for the road. So to maintain that rally car look, you need a bigger sidewall because you don't want tire pinch. But honestly, this car has moved so much closer to tarmac, especially with all of their with all of their record attempts with this car, like the Isle of Man and whatnot. I think the 18 actually looks very appropriate in this chassis. Now, if I went to an older model, like say my 2004, I think an 18 looks ridiculous, honestly. Any more questions on the exterior?
One last one. Commander asks, just one word, transmission?
Commander, we will get to the transmission when we move on to drivetrain. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and move on. What was the next thing? I think it was drivetrain, wasn't it?
It is, yeah.
It is drivetrain. Well, thank you for that segue, Commander. We're going to go ahead and pull the hood and take a look under the hood. Now, the engine in this car is, of course, the 2-liter direct injected unit, which was updated in 2015, was when it was introduced. It is a relative of the BRZ's engine. However, here it is direct injected turbocharged, whereas the BRZ FRS really just has direct injected engine with no turbo. One of the really great things about this car is that it's so accessible to work on. Now, I'm not saying that you should really pull your plugs or anything because honestly, the spark plugs are kind of hard to get to. But the fact is that this thing, you have the oil filter right here. You also have an intercooler right there. This is a big plastic piece, but this pulls off easy and it gives you full accessibility to the whole engine. And they're really great to work on. I've worked on a lot of Subarus. I've owned a lot of Subarus. Accessibility to the engine bay, other than the plugs, has never really been a problem. Now, the car that we are driving here today is a 6-speed manual transmission. You can get it with a CVT. And we tested the CVT back when the Subaru WRX was relaunched in 2015. The CVT I really liked. And it's not a car I would personally buy, but think about it. Offering a CVT opens this car up to my wife. You know, it's a fun car to drive. It has all-wheel drive, so it's safe. It has a nice interior now, especially this limited with the leather. I mean, why would you limit the options and not offer a CVT? Now, granted, the purists, yes, we're always going to stick to the manual transmission because, of course, we are. We enjoy the driving experience and we want to be engaged in that. They did make some modifications for 2018 with the transmission. The first and second gear synchros have been reinforced. Now, I've heard that before from them, so I'm not sure if they're more reinforced or if they're just reinforced, period. But the fact is that with the later generation Subarus, first and second gear sync hasn't really been a problem. Some of the earlier cars, first and second gear would wear out really quickly, especially if you're really hard on the vehicle and shifting like a maniac. And you would sometimes have trouble getting it in. So they understand that and they're looking to fix that basically as we've been moving forward here. So on all the Subarus that I've ever owned, the turbo's always been right back here. And on the STI, it's back there because of course that engine is like a decade old. Yeah, it's right down there. Oh, right. They moved the turbo all the way down there. I forgot about that. It's a fairly small turbo, but that gives you a very quick response on spool. Throwing questions out to the audience. Do we have any questions there? No questions? Nobody has any questions about the engine? I guess we all know about the engine, right? It's an engine. Of course, it is a boxer engine. Hey, Honda boy! Yo, what's up? I used to own one of those. That was definitely a very loud exhaust. What was that? Acura Integra. Anyway, moving on. So this is a 4-cylinder boxer engine for people who aren't terribly familiar. That means that there's 2 cylinders on each side and they're kind of going sideways as opposed to doing this. Subaru claims that gives you a much lower center of gravity because it puts most of the mass much lower in the car. And then when it's connected to their symmetrical all-wheel drive system, that means that it also gives you good balance throughout the vehicle because everything is so incredibly low in the car, which when you're raised up slightly, like if you're doing rally suspension style thing, every little centimeter matters. Now, this car, because it has the manual transmission, that means that it has a standard 50-50 split on the transmission, on the all-wheel drive system. So all the time you have 50% power here, 50% power there. Now with the CVT, it becomes way more complicated because that's more of a torque vectoring system that moves the power front, back, left, right as necessary. You could easily say that the CVT system is a more advanced system. I rather enjoy this one myself just because it's really predictable. It does the same thing every single time on every single corner. It's not doing much for you. And that's kind of fun. So we're going to wrap the engine. Any questions?
Not any questions, but Don says that he drove a 2015 recently.
Yeah?
And was not impressed with the gear throw. He hopes that it's been improved.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I have seen and read a lot of reviews of people who didn't like the gear throw in the 2015. Now, I had to double check on this one to make sure that they did not put the short throw shift kit in here. And there's nothing that says this one has the short throw shift kit. It doesn't feel extraordinarily short, but it's super clicky. This one is. Unfortunately, my review on the 2015 was with the CVT. So I have not driven a manual a manual 2015 model. So it's hard for me to say, but I can say this one is super clicky. It goes right in for me, and I'm really enjoying this transmission. I think it's one of my favorites, honestly. And I used to have an STI short throw swap in one of my other cars, and I like this one better. That was several years ago, so maybe my brain's fuzzy on that, but that's what I remember. Oh, one last thing about this. This hood, it's aluminum, so it's super light, which again means that you've shifted your weight lower in the vehicle. It also, what was the number one thing Subaru owners would do when they bought their cars back in the 90s and 2000s? Yeah, you'd buy these hood struts. Well, now they've been standard since 2015, but it's still nice that they're there. So I'm going to close this up. Are we done with engine?
Yep.
Cool. Moving on. I think that, do we have anything else on the outside, or are we moving on to interior now? I have notes because this is live, and I don't have a producer talking in my ear. Oh, I should talk about the price here. This car, as you see it equipped, is $34,555, including destination. Now you might be going, whoa, that's a lot of money. But it's cheaper than a Volkswagen Golf R which granted is more horsepower, but I like the all-wheel drive on this better. It's also a little bit less than a Civic Type R, which again has more horsepower, but is front-wheel drive. So you got to give it up somewhere. I know both of those cars would compete more directly with the STI, but if you're looking at a stripped STI, you're looking at mid-30s, I think still. I should have looked that up. I think they're still mid-30s or high 30s, so you're still in the same ballpark. But think about it, this car, you don't have to spend $34,555 to have fun. They start at $27,000. You want $27,000, you're not really missing that much, honestly. It's the same engine, it's the same drivetrain, it's the same transmission. The only thing you're missing out on is maybe the sick 18-inch wheels, the nav system, which we'll get to shortly, and of course leather. Personally, I like leather because it cleans up nice, but you know, it's not too bad. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a 60-second break so that we can rearrange cameras, I can get in the car, and we'll talk about the interior and something I'm not terribly fond of, the navigation system. So let's go ahead and cut to that. Okay, are we live here? Are we live? Yeah, okay, good. Sorry, I had to do the old changeroo here with some cameras. So inside the vehicle, first thing we need to do, it's sunny and warm, so I'm turning it on so I can get this air conditioning going. Yes, I shouldn't be wearing a sweater, but it's called continuity, okay? I started with a sweater, so the sweater stays on. Okay, that's pretty loud. How are we hearing? Can you hear on the mic okay, or is that too loud with the door open there? I'm getting an iffy. Ask the viewers. What do the viewers think? Is the engine too loud, or should I shut it off for the talkie bits? This is where you guys get involved. I already set that one up. Anybody have any comments? Is this a good volume? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, you can hear me okay? Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and move along with the car on. Maybe Joe, shut the back door there just because of the sound. It helps a little bit with the drone. I'll turn the fan down a little bit here too. Okay, so inside the car here, it has a massive improvement, and most of those improvements did come in the 2015 model. The 2018 improvements, they are subtle. There's some slight improvements in the materials that they use on the insets, the plastics. These knobs look the same as last year. Subaru does claim that they've made a number of these little very, very small, subtle yet significant updates. And I have to say, when I get into the car, I was like, wow, this is much better than I remember it. But I do remember that the 2015 was pretty good, other than the 2015 had that just god-awful nav system. Now, this one has the newer nav system. They incorporated this, I think it was last year or the year before, and it's still not great, to be honest, because it's still not the most current system, right? Crazy. So, this one, it is a nice big screen, and one of the best things about it is a nice screen for the rear view camera. And with that rear view camera, we can move it left and right. Are we on this second camera over here, Matthew? Are we? Yeah, show everybody that. What, Matthew? You're on it now? Okay. Okay, so it is nice that it has a big rear view camera, and they have included some of the safety technology that ties into this. It has rear cross traffic alert, which is good. It also has rear backup notifications, so if you're backing up and you're going to back up into a pole, it will say, hey, by the way, pole. But that ties into the whole safety aspect of this vehicle. My seat warmer's on. Everything from visibility, which is honestly one of the best. What they've done is this whole A pillar here, they've moved this whole capsule that would normally have a rear view mirror, and they've put the side mirror, not rear view, but the side mirror, they put it mounted on the door. So what that does is it opens up this huge visibility right here in the corner, which is honestly really nice. I wish more manufacturers would do that. This one also is equipped with the optional blind spot navigation. Optional blind spot monitoring. Now, the blind spot is part of a package that you get with the upgraded 7-inch entertainment system with the Harman Kardon speakers, and you get blind spot and rear cross traffic alert. But it's not the full eyesight system. You can get eyesight on this, and it's about a $3,200 option, but you can only get it on the CVT model. I think it's tied into the transmission because obviously you can only do certain things from a vehicle control perspective when you have a manual. And I think that that's probably why they do that. But this is the maximum safety options you can get on a limited with a manual. And honestly, as far as like safety options go, yeah, blind spot and rear cross traffic alert and a rear camera, I'm good. Honestly, I am good. Moving on, the steering wheel is very nice. It's leather wrapped. It has the detail stitching, and it's sculpted, so you really feel like a racer with this wheel. It actually feels really good to grip, and of course they have that much tighter steering ratio than the old WRXs. This has the same steering ratio as a BRZ, and everybody knows how well a BRZ steers. The one thing I don't like about it is the fact that they put these eye buttons down here. It's 3 big buttons, and I unfortunately can't show you in the shot here, but they've glued 3 big buttons right in my hand area. I mean, I shouldn't be hitting them, but why are they there? All they're controlling on this particular car is whether I see a clock and how long I've been driving. Why is that even there? Just redesign. There's a huge black unused space in the center of the gauge cluster that is used if you have iDrive, but on this car, it's not used. And so get rid of these buttons. I don't want them. I don't need them. Get rid of them. That does bring us to the gauge cluster, which Subaru does something right that a lot of manufacturers get wrong. They match the colors of their digital and analog displays. So the analog dials have little red increments. The center digital cluster, the center digital screen has the same red outline. It's great, and it's how it should be, and I'm very happy that they do that. Nothing else really to say about this. It does everything that you want it to, but it doesn't do anything particularly magnificent. There's not a lot of data to be had. And so many cars load you up with like G meters that honestly I never use. Why would you be looking at here while you're doing maximum Gs? That never makes any sense to me. Lap timers, all this other stuff that you usually use other devices for anyway. So I think simple is good. I just wish they would get rid of that I button there, which is annoying. Aircon, it's cheap plastic, like really cheap. Like I gave the Kia Stinger a hard time. Yeah, well this one, this is worse, way worse. It's kind of a surprising low point of this interior is the plastics they use here. I mean, just put a little metal ring on it or something. That can't cost that much. It would really elevate the quality of this interior. And of course, because this is year 2018, it's all about how many screens you have. And this car has lots of screens. The third screen is the one up here, which has been with the WRX for a few years now, but it gives good data, and I should point it out. We have a turbo boost gauge. The turbo boost gauge, it doesn't update that often. Like when I do it, I think it's like 4 frames of animation to get it all the way from like -15 to full 20 PSI. It'd be nice if it moved a little bit more analog-like. That's actually one thing I really like about like driving Porsches and other cars that have more advanced digital display clusters is that their digital display mimics analog. And I think that's really important. This one, they didn't even bother. But at least it has that information. And I can click through here and I can find out that it's Monday, 4/23. I can look at my MPGs, which are 20, not that great. This car, I think I have the number here somewhere. It's like 20, high 20s MPGs. Apparently I did not bother with MPGs, because why would you bother with MPGs if you're buying a WRX? They're reasonable for what they are, though. We'll just go with that. And then I'm going to go back to this. Now, I talked about the rear view camera as part of the safety stuff, but there's other aspects of this large Harman Kardon system. You get a map. Let's go ahead and do a search. I'm going to click menu. I'm going to click destination. I'm going to find, I don't want to find an address. That's always annoying. I never know where I want to find is. Let's find a place. Let's do a quick search around here. Already I'm like 5 clicks in and I haven't even searched for anything yet. Let's look for a Starbucks, because we live in the Northwest and there's always one around. Boom. Give me those results. 170. There's one nearby. And there we go. So it's functional. Yay. There we go. And I don't really have a problem with the navigation side of it. The navigation is functional. It's clean. It looks modern. It's much better than what you get in an Acura these days. So there's that, and that is all good. We'll go ahead and cancel route, which is pretty straightforward. The thing I don't care for here are the apps. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug in my phone with the USB cable, which plugs into the armrest. And, okay, I have AHA and I have Pandora. What's missing? Yeah, CarPlay. No CarPlay. Now, it's annoying because Subaru has CarPlay in some of their other vehicles that have a newer version of this system. This one still has last year's system, no CarPlay. I do get Pandora and AHA, though, so there's that, I guess. There's also something called Subaru Starlink. Now, Starlink, it is... I would like to comment on how well it works, but I will be completely honest here. I have tried it in 3 different Subarus. It has never worked once. It crashes my phone or it crashes the car's system every single time. So I'm not going to comment on it. I've never been able to use it because it won't even load. So, moving on. It does have a CD player. I know some people ask about that. Modern systems are starting to lose the CD player, and that bugs my wife to no end. We do on long road trips, likes to do books on tape. You have that option. Books on tape, you know what I mean. Okay, so moving on to the stick, because I know that's the most important part of this car. I don't know if you can hear this. Joe, go ahead and turn up the... Oh, no, I'll put my mic down here so you can hear this. Sorry, everybody. Hopefully this doesn't create too much clicking. Can you see that? It's snapping in. It gives very positive response. Matthew, can I get a thumbs up? Do you... Can you hear the clicking? Yeah. And then, of course, I pull it up to go into reverse. Now, I've used a lot of manual transmissions, and put that back on. Is it the absolute best on the entire planet? No. It's a $35,000 car. It's as good as you'll find in this class, though, and it's as good as I like in this car. Now, do other people like different feelings with their transmissions? Of course they do. So what I really like may not be what you really like. But I think this is great. I have no complaints at all about this car. In fact, I love driving this car, if not so I can just go through the gears. It's the little things. I should comment on these seats. These seats are really nice. They're heated. They have 2-stage heating. They look sporty. They feel sporty. They're not the Recaros. You can get a performance package for the WRX, and what that includes is Recaro seats. It includes performance brake pads, and it also includes, what else does it include? And deletes the sunroof. But you can only get that with the premium car, not the limited. So not available in this current trim level. We did have some questions about visibility, which I already addressed. Visibility is excellent all around. What was the other question there, Matthew? We had another question. Oh, the glass. Yes, this car is quieter on the road than the 2015 was. It is noticeably quieter. To do that, they basically moved to an acoustic glass, and I think it really helps with the road feel of this car. Now, that also ties into another aspect I should have touched on earlier, which is the suspension. The suspension has also been, I don't want to say softened up, I want to say it's not as brutal as it's been in the past. The previous generation was a bit stiff, not for me, But when I'm driving my family, my kids loved it. My wife wasn't a huge fan, especially if we're driving around town on rough roads. It was a little abusive. So this one, it kind of smooths it out a little bit, but you still have that performance edge. No complaints about the handling in the corners. It still feels like a sporty car. It's not like that mistake they made called the 2008 WRX. That thing, no, it's not like that at all. It's just minor improvements to overall create a better vehicle. While we're on the inside, do we have any other questions before we move on to some driving impressions? No questions? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on outside and go to some driving impressions. Why don't we go ahead and do that standby clip so people don't have to see cameras getting moved around. Give me a thumbs up once we're hot there. Yeah, okay. I got the door. You can do that.
All right. Just out of the way.
What, you're gonna move back to primary, aren't you?
I am.
Oh, okay. How are we doing? Like 10, 11 viewers?
Yeah, it keeps dipping from like 7 up to like 11.
Okay, that's fine. First time, I don't expect too many. I just wanted more than none. Oh, I'll go and power the car off. I'm going to start here and we're going to talk about the headlights. Ten? Okay, you can go ahead and unmute me. We're good? Okay, one other thing that I want to talk about here are the headlights. I forgot to talk about them earlier. Joe, give me a hands up. Are those lights on? They're on? Okay, so what they've done is this one has LED headlights. It also has this really cool little outer thing, which are part of the driving lights, but these are actually steering responsive headlights. Something that used to be like, you had to buy like an $80,000 Audi for. Yeah, they're now in a $34,000, $35,000 WRX. And the headlights are LED too, so they're super bright. Now, they are auto high-lows. Somebody drives a diesel, compensating for something. So the headlights are LEDs, and they're super bright, and they do have the auto high-low. So when you're driving down the freeway, it'll detect that there's oncoming traffic, and it'll dip them. So far, I have yet to drive a vehicle where I'm like, yeah, that's doing a great job, especially when you're winding, like driving back on I-90, these windy roads in the middle of the night, and cars are constantly coming around corners and stuff, and it's constantly up and down, up and down. I don't have any opinions about this particular car because I did not drive interstate with it, but just the technology in general, a lot of car makers are doing it. It's an option, you can turn it off, and I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Okay, so let's talk about driving. I have some clips that I already filmed of the car yesterday of it driving. We'll go ahead and get those queued up. I'll look for the hand signal. Okay, so driving the Subaru WRX. In these clips, we're not going to be doing anything like insane, but we are going to comment about the way that the road feel is. Subaru has softened up the suspension just slightly in this new model, and I think that it actually works really well because, again, this is the sports car that you drive every day. If you want something more extreme, you buy an STI or an STI RA, or you buy an Audi R8, you know? For what it is, and it is supposed to appeal to the widest, broadest demographic of sports car enthusiasts, I think that softening up the suspension slightly was a good call. Now, my wife will get in the car with me and not complain. The previous car was a little bit too stiff. Now, the 18-inch wheels on this car do play into that. If you did have the 17-inch wheels, you get a lot more sidewall, and that would have provided a little bit softer of a ride on those other, the previous generation suspension. However, this one, 18-inch wheels, softer suspension, makes for a great overall feeling package. And also, just the way this car looks on the road. When this car is in motion, it looks fantastic. It looks like it's a knife cutting through the air, especially in this red and black trim. I've not been a fan historically of bright cars, but dang, this thing looks good. especially with all the blacked out trim pieces. I mean, they just did a great job with this. 0 to 60, slamming through the gears. The gear shifts, again, says fine. The turbo boost comes on a little bit, on the later side because it is a smallish turbo and a smallish engine. But it's, again, after driving other cars, I don't see in this space anybody doing any better, really. The Type R has a little bit more of a manic feel to it. The Golf R feels a little more subtle. This one's kind of a little bit more in the middle. Now, granted, the Golf R is a $40,000 car. I mean, like, you can't buy it for less than that. So it's not exactly the same class. That's more STI level. But I still think that this one is more roundabout fun to drive. And of course, you have the fact that this has the all-wheel drive system that is a straight 50-50 split. So on gravel, you can slide this thing around all you want. It's great, fantastic. And if you want to take it really seriously off-road, well, you just buy some smaller wheels with a bigger sidewall and you're good to go. Throw on some snow tires and have the time of your life. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, this live stream. I'd like to thank everybody who tuned in for this live stream. If you missed it, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and you'll be notified about the next time that we do this. We also will be simulcasting in the future, I think we did on this one too, 2 our free apps for Apple TV and for Roku. Just look for Driving Sports TV on those platforms. I'm Ryan Douthit. Behind the camera, we have Joe Gillerin, and on Switch panel, we have Matthew Schramm. And for all of us here at Driving Sports TV, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Okay, so I forgot to ask any last-minute questions or comments. So they threw me back on front of the camera. Matthew, what do we got?
Let's see. So Xi just says that your 2015 WRX review helped him make an informed purchase decision on his 15.
Xide, what was it? Xide what?
Xide 00.
Xide 00 says that my 2015 review helped him decide on buying that car. Awesome, man. I hope you've enjoyed it. Has he enjoyed it? Was I wrong about anything other than that Nintendo-inspired nav system on that one? And which transmission did he buy it with? Or I should ask, what transmission did you buy it with?
Alright, so while we wait for him to respond,
Yeah, while we're waiting for a response on that, what do we got?
Don, when you were in reference to the shifting sound,
Yeah, shifting sounds.
yeah, he was saying that it sounds like the older version with the standard double din radio is better, as you can just swap it to the high-end aftermarket until now.
Oh, well, that's true. I mean, one of the nice things about buying older model stuff is you have much larger aftermarket support. I mean, honestly, what I used to ever do, whenever I buy a WRX or any Subaru, I would immediately call Tom over at Cartboy and say, hey, yeah, I need a short shifter and a bushing kit. And he would send them out. So there are lots of options if you buy even a couple years ago. And I don't know if this one is directly swappable with any of those, so you're gonna have to make calls on that. And I do agree with that. You can always get much more exactly what you want if you are one who wants to modify. And that's actually a good question here, because keep in mind, the old WRX 2004, oh, that was a 220, 235 horsepower. I mean, now they're old, so now they're like putting out 210 if you're lucky. This one's 268 from the factory. This is what you used to get if you bought an old WRX and you did a Cobb access port tune and you threw a couple $1,000 at it, is what this car is from the factory. Full warranty, no complaints. And it works together beautifully. I have a little bit of a pet peeve throughout my years. People may not remember, but I used to own a large Subaru magazine, so I dealt a lot with the whole tuning and aftermarket aspects of this vehicle. The thing that always chapped my hide were guys who said that they could tune a WRX better than the people who invented it. Now, I know of like 2 guys who can do that. Everybody else, I'm glad you feel great about your abilities, but I think that compromises are often made for certain reasons, and you don't want to throw that out the window. There's certain things that they do with this engine tune from the factory. Keep in mind, 268 horsepower from the factory. That doesn't suck. And they can do that reliably because of the concessions that they make in the tune. So yes, you can remove those concessions. Yes, you're also potentially removing long-term reliability. And any tuner who tells you it will be just as reliable, ask them, have they run a 100,000, 200,000 mile bench test on that engine after they've done the modification? You know what the answer is. So I'm not saying don't tune your car, but don't think that you can tune it better than the factory can for longevity and performance balance. It's always that balance when you're dealing with a factory, because they don't want to do that whole head swap again. They don't want to deal with, blown up engines. Nobody wants to deal with that, especially when you're a large company. Any other questions? And did he ever get back to us, or did he already go to lunch?
He never got back to us.
Maybe he went to lunch. We should all go to lunch. Any other questions, or we're going to go to lunch too?
I'm just going to double check. Did we go over visibility?
Yeah, we went over visibility on the inside of the vehicle.
Okay.
Who is Chimichangas? Chimichangas!